Hey YouTube, welcome back to our channel. My name is Elena.
And I'm Bjorn.
And we are Viking Age reenactors and living historians here to talk with you about your favorite Viking shows.
Today we're discussing episode 20 of Vinland Saga. I'm dying to know who this old man is now.
We literally saw him a few episodes back, and at the time he was looking at a kid that looked like Thorfinn at a slave market.
Yeah, was it like when we were first learning about Askeladd's backstory? Was that when we saw him?
Either then or like right before then.
They did like a close-up, and I'm like, am I supposed to recognize this person? I don't know who this guy is.
What is it with the Joms Vikings coming to the conclusion that everyone should put down their swords?
Yeah, it's just a big flex. It's literally it's them trying to become masters of war.
Yeah, perfect.
It's the Sun Tzu thing. It's not supreme excellence to fight every battle. It's supreme excellence to win a battle before the fight. Mm-hmm. So it's the whole like Jomsburg mentality with these guys right now in the anime is just like trying to reach that level of intimidation of like, I will kill you if you pick up a sword again. Never pick up a sword again.
All right, I have a note in here about Christianization, and I think that's because we were commenting on Cnut's...
Oh, his like mentality?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's still really unique to me, and it's so cool. It's such a unique spin on Christianity, which I really appreciate, because he's still like a Christian, absolutely. He still, worships God and everything, because he's basing his whole mentality around the idea of creating like Eden again, essentially. But like when he had his breakthrough, when he had his little eureka moment, and like got this whole new outlook on life, and again he kind of replicated the same kind of situation of being really angry at God for putting them through trials that they can't win, because they're destined not to, because of the life that they're forced to live. And it's like that vehement like anger that he feels towards God is like coming out in his speech too, of saying like of basically like rejecting it and saying we don't need that, we don't need heaven, because we're going to create our own heaven here on earth. We're going to make the world while we live Eden again. So it's still very much like Christianity like aligned or Christian centric, but I still feel like there's very much like a spiteful bitterness at God.
Here's the thing, my immediate reaction to that was to think of it as, in Viking Age Christianity, there was absolutely that push to Christianize heathens or anyone that did not share their belief for saving the soul. And I think that's something that still continues to this day. So when he's talking about creating Eden on Earth, my immediate thought to that, and this was probably just like what I kind of like know surface level Christianity, is we make everyone a Christian and everything's good again. But then I started to think about and remember a couple of episodes ago where when he had his breakthrough and when he realized that love was discrimination, and that kind of put him into this mentality where, yeah, he could love Christians and hate heathens, but obviously that's discrimination, so he has to love everything, including heathens. And now that's making me think that you might be right, that he isn't going to go down that road of trying to Christianize people, but he's going to go down the road of trying to love everyone and everything and lead other people to do the same. Yeah,
definitely. I think for his point of view in this mindset he's taken on, it's much more of an important thing that he convinced people to love all of creation, whether or not it's God's creation or the God's creation. Right. It's more important that you just love everything that is created that you can observe in a known universe, because it is divine. And so that's more of an important thing. Whether or not you reach it through heathenry or through Christianity is kind of your own thing to deal with. And that's kind of how I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can definitely also understand the push of like, you have to kind of believe in the God to see everything is sacred and everything is divine and whatever else. So it could be that he may try to just unite both factions and just kind of come under that same love everything approach, or it could also be a conversion tactic of saying you have to understand, or you have to believe that God created everything and everything is deserving of love.
The conversation that he had with King Sven kind of got me thinking. I think what King Sven was talking about is the difference between being a father and being a king. When he's talking about how the crown is heavy and how it makes him do things, I think what he's really saying is that as a father to Cnut, he would not have done the things that he has done by being a king. So his intent on having Cnut killed and not having him ascend to the throne and take the crown, when he says the crown does not want him, that's him acting as a king, as a ruler, and that's him being enslaved to the crown, essentially, and having to act in the best interest of what the crown basically demands, or what the nation basically demands. But as a father, he may not have made those same choices and actually appreciated Cnut for what he was. But at the same time, he can't really do anything about it because he's enslaved to the crown at this point. Yeah, he can't let that go.
You just blew my mind a little bit with that one. That's what this is. That's just washing over. Whatever thought I had just went right out the window. That's legitimate. I'm sorry, I love that. Yeah, because as a father, he's father to Cnut and Harold, and kind of has to do what's right for them. But being king, he's father to an entire nation, and he has to do what's right for all of his children, which are his subjects. And it's a total different structure. Like, I almost feel like you kind of can't approach a kingship with love.
Yeah, you have to approach it with strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, love for the nation, maybe.
Yeah, exactly, love for the nation, but and doing what's right for the whole body itself, not for each individual in it, essentially. So, like, if some people suffer, that kind of sucks, but you think at least you're doing what's right for the whole of the entity, not just the things that make up it. Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, that you can argue things about that until the cows come home, because that's all just conjecture, that's all theoretical, because you could also argue in the same sense of, like, you have to take care of the individual to make the whole better,
right?
Which is also legitimate, but we're talking this character's mindset, and I definitely agree with that. I can totally see the merit in it.
I'm not describing him as, being a slave to the crown so that he can do the best for his people. One of the things that he might want to do, I have no idea, but it could also be, power does corrupt, and it could be that he thinks that by gaining more power, he can do better for his people, but he's not doing better for his people now because he's so busy getting more power.
Yeah, and it could just be a sense of how he's able to logic his way out of his duties as a father, essentially. Is by like convincing himself that he's acting in the best interest of the country by removing his perceived weak son, essentially.
Exactly.
From the throne. So it's like a personal gripe that he has with it because, how dare I raise a weak child or whatever. But also to justify that, he's using his power to justify that by saying, if I can remove him, it's better for the country. I do want to touch quickly on, like, the resolution of that conversation too, because initially the whole thing was like, I'm gonna give you a place to go and hide and just live out your days. So it's essentially like a forced exile, and that happens a bunch.
Right.
If you're disloyal, or if you do something where you lose a battle or whatever ground, like, we kind of see that all throughout history. A ton, like, even all throughout the Middle Ages and everything too. And it's kind of the same thing that Sven was trying to do here with Cnut, is just totally remove him from the situation, not have to kill him and have that stain on him or create any kind of political division, but just put him in exile and not have to think about him and just remove him from the textbook, essentially.
Exactly.
But what actually ended up happening was Askeladd kind of reminded him that he was able to claim a great victory in England and take all of the spoils of their victory in London because of Cnut.
Right.
And so what would it show to the public where the person who literally handed you that victory is then exiled, essentially? That's a shitty thing to witness, and that in of itself would create political division. So it's better to actually reward him and keep him in the public. I love that. And that's absolutely true. Like, why would you want to serve a king who you literally just watch their own son hand them a huge victory, and then what do they get for it? They get exiled and pushed away and removed from society? So why would I want to give anything to this king?
So then on that note, we actually got to hear King Sven talk a little bit about his own father,
Yeah, his own rise to power.
Yeah, his own rise to power, and everything that was said there is basically right. He did bully his father out of his own kingdom. So his father was Harold Bluetooth, after which the Bluetooth is named. The headsets and everything.
The logo actually is Harold Bluetooth's personal bind rune.
Yep.
So like that little symbol on your phone, if you look really quickly, that's actually a Viking rune that stood for King Harold Bluetooth of Denmark. King of Denmark and
In Norway.
I have always heard the story that the Bluetooth symbol was named after Harold Bluetooth because it unites devices, just like Harold Bluetooth united Denmark and Norway. But apparently, that is a made-up story after the fact. It was named after Harold Bluetooth intentionally, but because like one of the developers was just reading like this Viking historical fiction novel about Vikings and Harold Bluetooth. And he just haphazardly named it after that because he was reading the book.
And then it was like on his mind.
Essentially, yeah. And then as an afterthought, they were like, "Oh yeah, it's because it unites devices," and because that's their reasoning.
Because they had to go in and pitch it to investors.
Exactly, and they were like, "Why is it just named after this random Viking dude? That's awkward as shit." Or is it named that because it's actually malware and it invades all your devices and takes all the information and it plunders your information? Is that what it is? No, I promise. I swear. No, it's the other thing.
Well, that would be amazing.
It would be amazing.
It wouldn't be amazing, but it would be amazing.
It's amazing after the fact. Once we figure it out. But anyways, Sven bullied Harold Bluetooth a bunch.
Yeah, I mean, he basically drove him off of his throne and out of the country. So all of that was completely correct. So, King Sven's rise to power was a very crazy one.
Like very aggressive.
Yeah, very aggressive one.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, and then he rose to power in Denmark. This happened around, I want to say 986 or 987, I believe, is what it says. This precedes this story a little bit, but it also makes sense because we're now in the year 1014 and King Sven has been on the throne for a little while, so
yeah, so it makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
because he needed time to rule. It's not like he just did it and then boom, launched a war and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified of our future videos, and we'll see you in the next one.